I know we only have 30 minutes together here, so thank you all for joining and really appreciate your time. Hopefully, some of the material that we're going to go through today will be of value to you. So we're just going to jump right in and talk about PDUs. I know they're called many things in the industry these days. Our focus of our discussion will be rack power distribution units or rack power strips. But these are the ones that attached. It's got button mounts and they attach to the back of racks or cabinets with standard spacings. Before we get started, one of the things that I always like to start these discussions on out with is where we were in 2015 and 2016 type era and what our approach was to develop the next generation rack PDU. Um, One of the things that we did, we were very disciplined about, was taking an outside-in approach. And what that meant for us is we started with the voice of the customer. We said, hey, we've got a Generation 3 product that's in the marketplace, but we don't want to just create something that was very inwardly focused. We wanted to go out to the market, so we tapped on some of our top customers. We tapped on some of the industry top users. They not necessarily were Panduit customers, but we just wanted to know from their standpoint, one, what do they like about our PDUs, or what don't they like, which was, I think, more important to me about our offer. What do they like about some of the competitors that were in the marketplace? And then what are some of their just high level wish lists, right? What could we develop for this segment of the market that could help really solve a lot of the problems that that they were running into in a daily basis, really. And it was kind of interesting because we did probably over 30 of these voice of customer, all different areas. We talked to sales, we talked to end users, end customers, of course, contractors and system integrators, and then top accounts. And it really was kind of interesting because we started getting this kind of boiled up list of things that were really important. And the top of the list was the market was desiring PDUs which could withstand a higher operating temperature. A higher operating temperature with no concessions, right? So that's, I say that because there were some competitors in the marketplace that were claiming higher operating temperatures, but then they had a small footnote that said, yeah, you can run this at a higher temperature. However, you need to derate the product in order to do so. The other thing that we saw as an ask from the marketplace was higher power density. And for us, that relates directly to higher outlet density because you're seeing an increased, not only larger cabinets, enclosures, and racks, but an increase of amount of IT equipment that they were trying to put into the same floor space of that particular rack. And as a result, all of that equipment needs to be powered up, and that was, they're saying, more and more outlets, higher power density, and also higher power capacities. As we know today, that's also a big ask with the current environment that we're in. Other things that people are asking for: hot swappable controller. So in the instance that there is a desire to replace that controller, the market does not want to take down the entire power strip. Understandably, these are mostly data center or mission critical type applications. So the controllers shall be hot swappable was one of the asks. Gigabit Ethernet on the controller. This one was kind of an interesting one because when I first heard this one, I personally even was like, oh, okay, this is for the speed, and it really wasn't. When you dig a little bit deeper, the gigabit Ethernet was being asked for by the end users as a labor reduction opportunity. And kind of an interesting one there is most data center level switches no longer auto negotiate lower than gigabit. I mean, they'll work at lower than gigabit speeds, but they won't automatically, which means you'll have to log into the particular switch and tell that particular port to run slower. And that's labor, and labor is money. So that was kind of an ask. And then of course, we touched upon the number one reason for equipment downtime was actually turned out to be, it wasn't, especially in the Americas, it wasn't power outages or even surge spikes, right? We've got pretty stable power, generally speaking. It was accidental disconnects of equipment cords. These are the cords, the C19s, the C20, the C13, C14 cords that go from the power distribution unit in the rack to the IT equipment was accidentally becoming disconnected. And we did actually a really deep dive in a root cause analysis and discovered the reason this was occurring was primarily because of weight of the cord itself and all the cords being dressed together in a neat fashion, as well as vibration and gravity. So it was kind of interesting. And you'll see here how we went towards solving that as well later in the presentation. And then what we noticed was there's a shift in how folks wanted to interact with the rack power distribution unit. More and more people, of course, have tablets and smartphones, even more today than they did back in 2016, 2017, but that was really even prevalent there. So they wanted to be able to have interactions directly with the PDU that were suitable for those specific screens, and we'll share with you how we did that as well. Um, so the furthermore, one of the top of the things, and I think I touched upon this just a second ago, but for PDU end users was maintaining availability and uptime. I mean, I think that's second to none. You really these data centers are mission critical spaces, and you really can't have things go down. So that was very important to us as well, to be able to provide a very high quality product. And then also, in order to do that, a lot of the uptime is also controlled with the temperatures that are in that environment. So having PDUs that had simplified temperature and humidity sensors was also implemented in this offer. Of course, the number one cost for a data center operator is cooling. It actually the cooling costs are even above the power consumption costs, which are of course a lot. So one of the things that is top of mind for this customer segment is they want to reduce costs by raising the temperature in the hot aisle or in the back of the cabinet safely, right? So that you don't want to give up uptime, but you do want to uh, reduce costs. In fact, there's a study that was done, and it said for every 1 degree that you're able to raise the ambient temperature of the entire room safely, you're saving 4% on the cooling costs. That resonates with people, and that really does drive us more towards the requirement of rack power distribution units and really every piece of equipment in that room to be able, the benefits of it being able to withstand higher operating temperatures. Um, the other way that this segment said they would like to be able to reduce costs is to switch off idle equipment. You're able to do that with power strips that have switching capabilities. We know that not every area of the market desires this. Of course, there are areas in certain segments of the market, for example, the financial industry, they really do not want switching in their power strips for a number of reasons. Then, of course, they wanted to high level of security. So security is top of mind. So they wanted to be able to have physical rack security as well as a high level of electronic security for the PDUs. And these are all top of mind things for the end users. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the Gen 5 PDU, I do like to kind of do the anatomy of a PDU, if you will, and the different types of PDUs that are in the Panduit SmartZone G5 PDU family. We do have a full line of basic PDUs. These PDUs are highly reliable, high quality. You get the outlet density, you get all the different input plugs. However, you don't get a network card. So the part here where you see on screen where it says network controller, that's the main difference between a basic PDU and any of the intelligent PDUs. And then from a intelligent PDU, Panduit does offer the 4 main intelligent PDUs that are desired by the marketplace. There's a monitored input. Effectively, you're monitoring at the input plug plus the breakers. There's a monitor switch, which is just building upon the monitor input level of PDU, where you're able to monitor the power at this level, and you're also able to switch PDUs, switch outlets. And then there's the monitor per outlet. So this particular one goes that next level of monitoring. You not only are you monitoring at the input level, but you're also monitoring at the outlet level. So you can, for example, see that if a particular piece of IT equipment is drawing too much current and it's a server, maybe it's overloaded, right? You can set yourself a threshold, an alarm, and be notified, hey, I need to take action there before, again, all of this is taking action on information that's coming in to the data center manager before a mission critical event occurs. So, and then of course we have what we call the MSPO, the monitor and switch per outlet version. In this version, you're able to monitor at the input level. You're also able to monitor at the outlet levels, and you're able to switch outlets. All of these 4 intelligent PDU versions allow for environmental monitoring as well as rack access control directly from the PDU. In the next slide here, well, I'll talk to you a little bit more about what we mean by rack access control. It's really a neat thing. So moving right along. The next thing that we wanted to do is make PDU selection simplified. So we did early on, and we still have these available. We developed some pocket guides that contractors and system integrators have access to that can carry a pocket guide with them. And if they know their input plug type and an outlet configuration, they can get down to a part number with a small book that's designed to fit in your pocket. Now what we wanted to do is also take that and we wanted to make that as a online tool. The tool we call it just a PDU Selector, and it is available on panduit.com, and it does work on mobile platforms as well. So you could utilize your smartphone or a tablet or a PC to do a quick selection, and you can make your selections based on region. So if you're a global account and you want to see, hey, what are the normal power standards and PDUs that are available for Europe, you can do that through this tool as well. Here in the United States, you can pick that. You can pick your PDU type based on some of the things we just talked about. You've got the 4 listed here on this slide, but of course, basics are also available through this tool. And then you go right into input plug type. So if you've got I think in the example here, we've got a 3-phase Y 30 amp, which is an NEMA L2130 selected. So then what it starts to do as you're making your selections over on the left is this list will begin narrowing down to just exactly what you're needing. You can select your overall protection, whether it's circuit breakers, do you want overhead or underfloor cord entry? What are the different outlet counts that are available based on your prior selections? So really kind of simplifying and getting you down to a part number. Do you want to have different color chassis, to be able to differentiate and delineate between A and B side power? We know that's a common trend, red and blue or black and red or black and blue type chassis. And even down to if you know your power capacity, you can start there. So you can select, hey, I know I'm going to need 7 kilowatts of power in my particular rack. You start with that particular selection right down here, apparent power, and that'll give you select something a little bit above 7, so maybe an 8.6, and that'll narrow down, hey, these are the particular input plugs that allow for that much power capacity. So again, we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you to make selecting a PDU super simple. So we'll spend another few minutes on this particular slide, because the thing I really like about this slide is it goes through and answers all of the desires that we had asked for from a market standpoint, from those voice of customer surveys. Starting off at the top left, we'll go clockwise. High density. So there's a new outlet module that was developed for this offer, and you'll notice the C13 outlets are 180 degrees offset from one another. That was intentional. That was to drive outlet density with regards to form factor, right? You've got to keep the form factor slim. So this particular form factor with this outlet density, we believe is the leading outlet density in the marketplace today. Also, we designed this outlets to have locking capabilities directly with the locking power cords. So let's jump into that just for a second, and we'll go back to the prior slide. One of the things that we did, to staying with the outlets here for a second, is we wanted to completely eliminate the number one cause for downtime, which was accidental disconnects. So, however, we also wanted to be considerate of the rack PDU size and outlet density, right? So, where in the prior, in our prior generations and some of our competitor products, they put on these large, bulky locking outlets themselves. What we opted to do was Panduit. We are the cable tie people as well, so we did a what I call sort of a free solution. Is that we integrated a recessed slot for a cable tie. This is what it looks like when I do these presentations at trade shows in person. The feedback is overwhelmingly, wow, this actually um, works for what it's suited for. It may not be the most elegant solution, however, it will resolve the number one reason for equipment downtime, which is vibration and gravity. And it's almost a free solution in the cost of a cable tie. However, I say almost, but I always remind people that you do want to be mindful of the labor involved, right, with deploying these. But if you want to use the power cord that possibly came with the piece of IT equipment, you're able to do that, and we absolutely can prevent the disconnect with the interface of where that power cord interfaces with our PDU. Now, why do I say that? Well, with this type of solution, we're not able to do anything with the other side of the power cord, which actually plugs into the IT equipment. So what we decided to do was develop a limited line of power cords. They're in standard. They're available in black, red, and blue. They come in packs of 10, and they lock on both ends. They're universal on this end, the IT equipment side, because they grab onto the center pin, and it's a spring-loaded lock, and it works really well. And this side is a mechanical lock as well, and our outlets are provisioned to accept this side, and it will physically lock into the PDU, completely negating the effects, and also no additional labor. In fact, the feedback from the market has been excellent. They like the snap feature, that when you plug one of these cords in, you hear this positive affirmation that the PDU cord is locked into the PDU. Again, sometimes, often during in-person presentations for this particular offer, I'll have two power cords in a 70-inch long full-length PDU snapped in, and I'll pick up the PDU right on the desk. So I mean, it really works well for cord retention. So we've covered a lot by skipping around a little bit, but I think it's valuable. A couple other things. We already talked about the low profile design. We did that by introducing low profile premium hydraulic circuit breakers. We made our Gen 5 network module hot swappable and rotatable. So what does rotatable mean? Now you can ask us to rotate this for underfloor or overhead power at the factory. We can do that. Or if you wanted to opt for a single part number, and maybe in some areas you had overhead power, and other areas you had underfloor power, there's 2 T10 screws, and you could rotate this yourself. So this is designed to be designed to be hot swappable and rotatable. There's a back plane behind this. It's only low voltage here, so it's very safe. Also, if you disconnect and remove the controller completely from the PDU, no outlets are affected, no input power is affected. So it's truly hot swappable. In addition, one of the things that we decided to do with the controller is we also recognize that end users are investing heavily into configuration of these products and deployments. And with some competitive products, if you did have to replace that controller, you would have to go back and reinvest into getting things set up again. What we did is we have the configuration file actually stays in the chassis itself. So around initial power up, there's a handshake that occurs between this and the controller. If it's in default, then it will just start your controller off in default settings and factory defaults. However, if there is a configuration, that's the first check it does. It says, hey, do you have a configuration here that has been custom created by the end user? If the answer is yes, it automatically will start using that. So the beauty of that is, let's say you had environmental thresholds and email addresses and SNMP and all of that already set up. Well, you don't have to do that again. All of that labor that you put in, we preserve that if you ever need to disconnect and replace that controller or rotate that controller. Redundant network access. So the PDUs you can daisy chain them together, and you can even have dual inputs. That's our redundant network. So not just power redundancy. Now we're crossing into network redundancy also with this offer. In addition to that, we're mindful of the increased demand by the co-location facilities. So you can also use RNA to have different privileges per login personnel, so that you could really very easily facilitate a tenant landlord type application and deployment with these PDUs. Power metering accuracy is billing rate at 1%. And here's another piece of simplification we did for the installers is we understand how important it is to balance the load, especially across three-phase PDUs. So we color-coded our outlets with corresponding breakers. So this is kind of a simple thing, but we're really, we think this has really helped the marketplace quite a bit. So if you look at B1 here, breaker 1, black, the black outlets, B2 is gray, and it's tied to the gray outlets. So you can properly load your circuit breakers in kind of a visual color code. And you can imagine as these PDUs reach, for example, a very popular product for us is a 60 amp three-phase delta with 6 breakers. And the color coding of outlets to breakers comes in really, really handy. To continue to stay in the realm of decreasing time to deployment, decreasing labor at the market and the end user level, we took it one step farther, and we made all of our sensors as well as rack access control digital. So what does that mean? What that means is when you plug in a sensor into our PDU, the sensor has firmware and so does the PDU, and they talk to each other, and the sensor tells it what kind of a sensor it is. So if it's a water rope sensor, it'll tell it I'm a rope sensor, and you go in and just immediately start setting your thresholds. If it's a temperature sensor, it'll tell it it's a temperature sensor. You don't have to go in there and define what it is because it already knows. The other thing it allowed us to do, in addition to increasing the accuracy of the sensors, is it allowed us to put multiple sensors on a single bus. Why is that important? According to ASHRAE, the front of the cabinet should have a 3 temperature plus a humidity probe. That's 4 sensing points in the front of every cabinet, and a temperature probe in the rear of the cabinet. And by us going digital, we're able to put all 4 of those sensing ports into a single part number. We call it the 3T plus H, but that way you could do that every 3 cabinets and meet ASHRAE requirements. You can daisy chain up to 44 PDUs and up to 32 sensors. So you could get, so if you logged into a single PDU, you could see all 4 on a single IP address. So that saves your IP addresses. We thought that was kind of a neat feature. And last couple of things which are kind of related is I talked to you guys earlier about how we saw, so our Gen 3 product was rated at 45 degrees C. We saw some of the competitive products out there at 45 degrees C, and then they would go to 50, 55 degrees C, but it's basically creative marketing, because what they were effectively doing was saying, hey, derate the product by 50%, effectively saying, hey, you can't use all these outlets that you paid for, if you're going to run at these higher temperatures. So at Panduit, we thought, hey, you know what? We're designing this from the ground up. Let's ensure that we put in high grade, high quality components. We can withstand 60 degrees C at full load rating at an extended period of time. What does extended period mean? It's for the entire warranty period, if you'd like, or even beyond, because we've tested it. So, and in fact, in the last several years, we've been going up against bake-off. We're having bake-offs against many, many competitors in the marketplace, and the Panduit G5 SmartZone PDU does really, really well at high temperatures. So much so that Panduit decided to take its 1-year standard warranty and upped it to a 3-year standard warranty for the Panduit SmartZone G5 PDU product and all the associated accessories that go along with it. So with a lot of competitive products, you're going to get 1 or 2 years, and then they're gonna ask you to buy that 3rd year. With us, you get that standard. You can extend it if you'd like another 2 years. So we know that this is popular in some instances. That is also available. Now, not only are we able to do physical rack security, let's touch on that a little bit. So we've got electronic swing handles, which you can badge in and badge out of a cabinet. Prior to this, with our Generation 3 product, you had to buy a gateway appliance. For some competitor products, you've got to get their version of the gateway, which is a 1 rack unit device that typically has a per cabinet price point from anywhere from $500 to $800-900 I've seen. With all the microcontrollers getting more and more powerful, this was an incredible feat for our research and development team. They were able to provide electronic rack access directly from the PDU. So we're real happy with that, and that's been going over really, really well with the marketplace for implementing physical rack access security directly from the PDU. But not just physical rack security, where security is top of mind for us and many of our customers. And one of the things that some of our more sensitive customers, such as the financial sectors as well as healthcare, has been asking for is security firmware that is hardened to withstand network snooping and security scanning. The top 2 industry standards are HPE Web Inspect as well as DDI. And so we hardened our security against these brute force types attacks. And we did it for those particular customers. However, at Panduit, we didn't want to just limit that level of security to just those segments. So we've included that as standard in all of our Gen 5 PDUs. I'm going to skip here. So let's have a closer look at the network controller itself. As a reminder, this is what separates a basic PDU to an intelligent PDU. Some of the feedback we had was the screens on our prior generation product and some of the competitive products, not all, were not easy to see. And not that there's a whole lot of physical people walking around wanting to see them, but during the initial deployments, there are. So what we implemented is a highly visible OLED display. In fact, this is a real picture. This is not rendered, and you can see a 3-phase, and we've even got a capacity graph that you can see that line 2 and line 3 both have more capacity than line 1. So it helps in load balancing this particular screen. Gigabit Ethernet port, again, as a labor savings to the marketplace for the entire offer of these PDUs. Sensor ports. Also, you'll see later in a slide, there's also a sensor hub. So if you really wanted to deck out a particular cabinet, you can use a sensor hub and really attach a lot of sensors to fit your needs. Now, from a customer experience and a customer advantage standpoint, we didn't just stop at the physical PDU itself, we recognize that folks are using smartphones and tablets, and therefore when we designed our web interface, the web server that comes standard with every Gen 5 PDU, we designed it from the ground up in a language called Grommet. And what the beauty of this language is it will actually sense the type of device you're on and control and give you that optimal customer experience. Even to this date, I believe we're the only ones that are thinking about that level of customer interaction with our products. It's a couple of screenshots for you to be able to see. We call this the dashboard. You've got meters, so you can have a quick look at, hey, how's your capacity? This particular dashboard is actually showing 4 PDUs that are daisy chained together on a single IP address. Do we have accessories? Absolutely. So the reason people will get intelligent PDUs is not just to monitor the power that is being consumed by the PDU over the network port, but also monitor the environment for which it is in. So we talked about this earlier. You do have a temperature probe. These are digital temperatures. This is the temperature probe right here. You do have a temperature plus humidity. It looks just like this. It's just we embed a temperature plus humidity inside of this. And then of course we have the 3T plus H, which is this particular guy. As a reminder, all these sensors run on a single plug-in bus. We also have for those underfloor deployments, often there are chiller lines that run in the floor. So we wanted to offer a couple of ways for you to detect leaks, and we've got those. These are digital as well, and we've got a sensor hub. This is a passive hub, so you've got 1 in, 3 out. You do have full security built directly into the PDU itself, so you can do a door contact switch if you'd like, or you can go full blown and have electronic rack access, which comes with its own access hub, open close sensor, also an external sensor input port. So for example, if the door access solution takes up one of these sensor ports, we do replace it. So we give you another sensor port. And we tend to do that with every time you add something on. And this guy here often steals the show at shows such as Bixby and Cisco Live, is the automatic rack light. This is a USB powered device, which is firmware controlled. So once the door opens, there's a small time delay, and then this light actually has magnets on the back of it. It's typically installed at the top rail of the cabinet, but it's magnetic, so you can pull it off and you can use it as effectively a light wand in the back of a cabinet. So this one here really does well as well for us. So I always like to show a typical solution, just to a lot of folks on the call may already know this, but I always like to show it as a reminder. PDUs typically will sit in the hot aisle. So you'll notice both PDUs on the A and B feed are sitting in the hot aisle. Often most of the work is being done in the hot aisle, so the auto light could be back there. You've got a handle, a hub, and then a temperature only. This is typical. We're just following ASHRAE lead on this one. And then of course you can add additional things like dry contact side panel sensors, water rope sensors, and this would complete your hot aisle side of the cabinet. Now moving to the cold aisle, you've got your handle, you've got your security right here, handle and access hub, plus a 3T plus H, that's your typical. And then of course you could add an additional hub and add your additional micro switches or other sensors that you saw on the prior slide to really build out a custom solution. So we wanted to try to keep this on time. I know I went a few minutes over. We will have some time for questions. I can know that I can stay. Jane?
Yeah, sure, thanks. We will use this time. I know we are a little bit over, but you will receive a recording of the webinar. So if you need to drop off, we do understand. But I did want to utilize this time to just answer some questions that we had come in. The first one, Dippin, was, do you have PDUs with a mix of monitored and switched outlets?
Yes, that's an excellent question. And yeah, we do. So the way we do that is there's 2 different flavors that we have. There is a monitored switched version. We call it the MS, And what I'm going to do, Jane, to help us is I'm going to jump back to the slide that covers this.
Sure.
And the monitor switched allows you to monitor at the circuit breakers and input, but also allows you to switch outlets. I'm sorry, switch outlets. You can switch any of these outlets. And then we also have what we call the MSPO. So this allows you to monitor at the input, monitor at any of the outlets, or switch any of the outlets.
Oh, awesome. We did have a few questions on whether you will receive the presentation and the link to the PDU Selector tool. I will be sending those in a follow-up email, so I will send the link to the Selector tool and also a PDF of the PowerPoint from today. We did have a comment come in that stated, we use these power cords in our new data center, and these are amazing. One can pull on it as much as possible, and they do not come out. Great product. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you for that feedback. We really
great
saw that as a something that was in the marketplace that really was, you know, so many people would go down and you would see walk up to a cord, and it was, you could hardly visually tell even. I mean, it's no longer conducting electricity, but you couldn't quite tell because it was just loose. So thank you for that comment. Yeah, the power cords are really well accepted by the market.
Okay, it looks like our next question, are those P-lock IEC connection cords?
They are, they're not P-lock. They are, because I believe the P-locks only lock on one end. And they're a competitor. I believe a P-lock is an actual competitive trademarked device. So our products, our cords are designed to, so they'll work on standard non-locking competitive outlets as well. They are guaranteed to lock into our products because we test them to that. Now, with that said, ours will lock into some competitive products, but we don't go out of our way to make that happen. So they are not, because they lock. Also, I think the big advantage with ours is they lock on both ends, not just the outlet end.
Okay. The next question is, can we connect to PDU network controller directly from our smartphone using Bluetooth?
We looked at that technology. Currently, you cannot. Primarily, what we saw was a reluctance in the marketplace of accepting wireless type technology. We know there's a competitor out there that has a Bluetooth dongle, and we've talked to them very closely as well, and it has not done well because of this stigma around wireless. We get the question around Wi-Fi quite often as well. We'd love to be able to develop either Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, any of that technology, but we do have some reluctance there in the marketplace to actually wanting it at the data center level. There might be a little bit more acceptance in the enterprise telecom closet type levels. But that's primarily the reason we've not invested into that technology.
Okay, we'll do one more question here, Dippin. The other questions that we have not got to, we will follow up with you each directly. So this last question, do you or will you have a horizontal PDU that will be monitored and switched per outlet?
So that's another real great question and it really, we develop PDUs based on the marketplace itself and the needs by the marketplace. So just to kind of talk about what does that really entail, when we look across the marketplace, less than 15% of all of the PDU deployments are in the horizontal form factor. So we're not even going to the monitor, the switch, the MM, and I'm just saying 85% of them are not even in horizontals. So can we do it? Would we do it? The answer is 100%. We have the technology. We know that we offer a monitor switch version. So to be able to do an MSPO version in that form factor is absolutely doable for us. But again, please bring that in through one of our Panduit sales folks. Let's talk about the opportunity and let's make sure that it makes sense for everyone. But yeah, from a technological standpoint, it's not a difficult thing for us to do. It's just the markets themselves have not made that a priority for us.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone today for your time and all of the questions. This will conclude today's webinar.